What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and here at RedBeard Outdoors, I talk about faith, family, fitness, and the outdoors. And today, guys, we have a special guest for you as part of the Saturday sit-down edition of the podcast, the full-length episode where I bring on a guest and make sure that you guys get to hear the questions that I've had for the guests and that you guys have asked as well. Because if you are over on Instagram, you can get into a channel that I have over there. It costs you nothing. And you can go in and just say what questions you have, and I let you know the guests that are coming on ahead of time so that you can ask those questions to people like Bruce over there at Leupold, the CEO, the guy that is outstanding and pushing that company forward, continuing that vision of the family-driven company that Leupold is. And as you guys know, Leupold is a partner of the show that is recent this year. That is the glass that I've been running, everything from the whitetail woods out to spotting up on the mountain with their spotter. The BX4 binos, those new pro guides are fantastic, guys. You're not going to get a better glass, better bang for your buck with the BX4s. They are lighter weight than the BX5s. And guys, there's some new stuff coming down the pipeline that you're going to be excited to hear about with Leupold. So all of that being said, get excited for this episode. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Bruce as he goes over Leupold, the dream that they have there, things that they've got coming down the pipeline, and things that they currently have that you can get if you're just getting started into rifle or archery, what glass maybe. I even ask them what's the best package for different levels of hunters and people that enjoy using binocular spotters, rifle scopes, etc. So get excited. Hope you enjoy this episode. Guys, before we get into the episode, though, I do want to give a quick shout to, as you can see, this is the new hoodie right here from Phorm. Over there at Phorm and Phorm Outdoors on Facebook. Go join the group. Costs you nothing, guys. Again, these are all free resources that I'm trying to provide to you so that you can have community built up around you as we're heading to the end of the year, where you're going to be going into a lot of food encounters as you end up the year. And we want to make sure that you guys have the support that you need to continue with your goals to start the new year 2025 off in the best way possible and getting started now rather than waiting the next 2 months to get started on those goals. So go join us over at Facebook, Phorm Outdoors Facebook group, and go pick up one of these awesome new hoodies or some of the base layers that we have with the Phorm Outdoors compass right here. They're great base layers. I've used them in the woods, absolutely love them. And they're even fun to wear around the house or even at the gym. So all of that being said, guys, go check out Phorm. We've got some amazing deals coming up with Black Friday, some amazing value adds that we have, and new flavors that are dropping. Of course, the seasonal flavors. You guys know peppermint bark always comes around this time of year, so get excited for it. And now let's get into the episode here with Bruce and Leupold. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the RedBeard Outdoors podcast. I'm Jonathan, your host, and today we've got a fantastic guest for you guys. We have Bruce Pettit. He is the CEO over at Leupold, and you guys know that I run Leupold Glass. Everyone knows about Leupold and their gold rings on their scopes. They've been in the scope market for a really long time and doing some amazing things with rangefinders, and they have Project Hunt, which we're going to get into as well, which is an opportunity for people in the entire hunting space to be able to win an awesome opportunity with Leupold. We're going to get into all of that and get to know Bruce more and also what Leupold's all about. And you'll get to know why I chose to partner up with Leupold, not just for the amazing glass, but the people behind the company as well. So with that being said, Bruce, welcome to the podcast. And who are you for people that don't know who you are?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And we appreciate your partnership. You do a great job, and we love your podcast. But who am I? I'm Bruce Pettit. I'm the CEO of Leupold and Stevens, and we've got 750 hardworking Americans that make rifle scopes here in our factory every single day of the week. So I'm a pretty blessed and lucky guy to have a team and a company that we have. So we just work hard to get better every day. And it's worked for us. So we really are having some success and continuing to work hard on building a great future. So
That's amazing. So, with it being a family-owned company, explain that for people maybe a little bit more that don't understand the difference between like a big corporation and companies that are owned by maybe a group versus a family-owned company. What's the benefits of a family-owned company?
Well, there's a lot actually. We're a fifth generation family owned, and what that means is, we have a number of shareholders we're a 117-year-old company. So if you look at the kind of ratio out there, there's probably less than 1% of family owned businesses that are older than 117 years that actually still stay family owned. We have no outside investors. And so it's a real testament to both the Leupold and Stevens family for being able to set up a structure that's been able to keep a company in business that long and still family owned, and still passionate about the business. And so, from my standpoint as a CEO, it provides a lot of advantage. And that being, they have a long-term view of the business. And I think when you look at a lot of public companies that are publicly traded, those CEOs have a responsibility to try to get that stock price up, right? And so every quarter they're worried about where the stock's going to be and doing quarterly results. And I look at numbers every day. I mean, that's how I'm programmed. But the reality is I don't have to. The advantage for me is our shareholders are about building long-term shareholder value and building generational value. And when you have that opportunity, you can make decisions that allow you to invest and for the long run, and so sometimes you can make decisions that a payback may take, 7-8 years. But it's a great asset and it's going to put you in a better place at that time. And so we think about generational value in our strategy and how we plan. And so vis-a-vis owned by an investor that wants to maybe sell the business in 3 to 5 years, or a public company that's constantly looking at how do they drive a share price, we're really looking at generational value. And I think that's the big advantage. I think the other thing is just family shareholders care about different things. At least ours do. And one of the things that our family shareholders are really committed to is our team, and creating plans and opportunities for our team so that everyone here, it's not just family owned, but we really talk about our business and it being a high performance culture that's blended with a family culture. And when you think about that for a second, there's, at least in my family, there's very few people out there that hold me more accountable than my family. Families can be tough, right? And so it's a nice thing, but I know they love me and I know they care about me. And so the reality of having people who care about you, but also say, let's get this done together, and let's do it is a really, amazing blend that we get at Leupold and Stevens. And I just think that's part of the huge advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing for me too, is you guys aren't super, I mean, obviously it's a business, right? You want to stay in business, you got to make money, but
Absolutely,
that's not your main focus. And I feel like there's a lot of companies that, if you look at the companies and a lot of the companies that I appreciate working with as well, are internally driven, not necessarily externally driven by money or profits or whatever. It is, when I say that to people, they're like, oh, well, they're a business, they got to make money, obviously. But if you go into the company, it's not about numbers necessarily. It's about how can we make a better, environment for the people that work here, and encourage people to work harder by doing so. And then in turn, you get a better product in the end. And obviously, Leupold's been around with the scopes for a very long time, for a good reason. And
yeah.
so it started there with Leupold, and then kind of how has Leupold transitioned from scopes to where they are now with binoculars, and you've got the clothing line, you've got range finders, you've got more than just rifle scopes at this point.
Well, I mean, we want to be the dominant performance optics company, and I think that's our goal, and that's a big statement, right? Because what dominant means is we're never satisfied, and so if we have a 2-point lead, we want to make it 4, and when it's 4, we want to make it 8. So we're always looking at how we get better, and I think that's really important. Obviously, our focus is core hunters and shooters. I appreciate other brands that are focused on birding and all these things. There's other things that are in there, but that's not our focus. We're really, really clear on who we're going to service. And I think that when you think about core hunters as an example, we got to work really hard to make sure I want to provide everything they need for optically, that they can have an amazing hunt. and they can go out and they can be relentless. And so when you think about that, it's not just a rifle scope. That's job one for us. Let me be really clear. We're really good at making rifle scopes. We're really good at managing light. I've got 85 engineers that are in this building every single day working on product. And I love that. And we're passionate about it. We also have to have an observation product. And I think the product that we're putting in the market now and what we have coming in the next, we do a 5-year roadmap. And I'm going to tell you, we've got some products that are coming that are incredible. And so whether it's our, range finding binoculars or what we're doing with the new RX 5000, where you can pin it right to your Onyx, or other maps, we're really looking at how do we innovate, and more importantly, how do we make sure that hunter, when he or she gets in the field, can perform at their highest level. That's our job. That's what we have to be passionate about every day. Is we don't, when we talk about be relentless, we got to deliver on that. We want you in the field, whether you're a whitetail hunter and all the work that goes into that, and making sure you're ready, or whether you're hunting out west for elk. It does not matter to us. We're going to give you the product that absolutely gives you the best chance to perform.
I love it. Yeah, it's definitely, and it's noticeable too when you put your glass up against some other glass that I've used in the past, and that I've also have friends that have. We'll set them all up on tripods, and you can tell that Leupold is a really good job. I didn't realize there's 85 people behind, engineers behind the letting in of light and all the glass and everything that goes into it. I just know that when Matt gets the products, he beats the crap out of them. But outside of that, that's awesome to know there's that many minds behind it, because every mind is going to bring a different concept and idea and their own take on whatever the optic should be. So that's really awesome.
When you're a manufacturer like we are, remember, I don't go, with our rifle scopes, I don't go source that somewhere, right? That's made here in our factory. And so, and a rifle scope has over 200 parts, most of them. If you take a VX6, for example, it's over 200 parts. And so we make those, we put them together here. We guarantee them for life. Think about that. And then, they've got to work in any kind of an environment, whether it's hot, cold, submerged, whatever it is. And they got to be, incredibly accurate. And so it's a process that you go through to really, make sure that you can do that and do it at scale, do enough where you can sell enough that it makes sense. And so we've figured that out over time. And I'm, just really proud of the team and the work that goes in to make sure it's going to work. So.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned the RX 5000. I want to talk about rangefinders here for a minute. I don't want to go crazy down the rabbit hole of product, because I'll do my own reviews and such on the podcast here. But the RX 5000 was really interesting because it does what you mentioned briefly, where you can, and for people out there listening, you can actually take the rangefinder, you can pin, drop a pin onto your Onyx or other mapping systems that you may be using, and it'll do it Bluetooth. There's a little setup to begin with, and I'll do a whole episode on that separately for those that are interested in that. But you can set it up and it'll drop to your phone and leave a pin there. So if you're a shed hunter, which I don't have the time to do that, I wish I did. But if you're a shed hunter, you can ping all the sheds that you see from one glassing spot, and then you can get over there to them. Or obviously, if you're hunting, that's a great opportunity. So I guess, why was that something that you guys were interested in adding to an already great rangefinder?
Well, I think that you think about the uses for it. I'll give you an example. I don't know if I can't remember, it was 2 years ago or a year ago, but I was hunting in Utah on a mule deer tag, and I happened to get really, really close to the Wyoming border. And so I'm hunting, northern Utah, close to the Wyoming border, and I've glassing all day, and I was out with my son who lives in Utah, and see a nice mule deer. I mean, not the biggest in the world, but a solid mature deer. And I'm glassing them, and we're looking at our Onyx. I don't have the RX 5000, of course, because it isn't out yet. And I can't tell how close he really is. I'm guessing, and I'm looking at it, and I'm kind of messing with it to see, is he on Utah or is he on Wyoming? But, as a hunter, ethically, I've got to I can't take a shot here, and I needed to let him move considerable distance for me to be able. Now, he ended up coming down a draw, which brought him right into Utah, and ended up killing the deer, and it worked out great. But the reality of it is I sure would have liked to be able to pin that to my Onyx and know that he was 30 yards on, or 40 yards on, or 50 or 60 or whatever it was. He was on further onto Utah and not in Wyoming than I thought. But it's a great example of, knowing where you are and being able to pin that. So there's one example of what I had that was relevant right there.
Yeah.
The other thing about it is if you think about private land and public land and making sure you're in your unit or making sure you're on the property you're supposed to be on a hunt, there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do that give you that ability. The second one is, if you make a shot on a deer and maybe you hit it a little back or whatever it is, I mean, things happen. You know exactly where to start trailing. Because you and I both know when you go down and you come back up, you go, I thought he was right here. Mm-hmm. How many times does that happen where you're like, he was right here? And you look and all of a sudden you're like looking around going, no, I was looking and that bush and, you're trying to figure it out. And so knowing where you actually were able to harvest that deer and make that shot and then start a blood trail from there, whatever you need to do, or better yet, if it's low light and you got to come back in the morning, because you can't do it at that time, you know exactly where to start, right? So there's some huge advantages around that. Now I've had, Fish and Game, and I've had other people that talk about it. In fact, I ran into a guy who was salmon fishing out here in the Northwest, and he was like, yeah, I just kind of look at where the boats are catching fish, and then I just pin that sucker. So when they're gone, I can come back over. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, right? I've never thought of that. But it gives you incredible accuracy on that. So there's a whole bunch of things that, a Fish and Game guy can look up there and say, hey, they're not in their unit. Or they're on private land right now. I wonder if he should be there. So there's a bunch of uses that this thing's going to, we're getting them from a ton of people. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Those are all great ideas. I hadn't even thought of half of those. I was just thinking of, just the one, being able to pin where you find the animal, but those are all awesome opportunities for that rangefinder.
And it's incredibly accurate. That's the one thing compared to other rangefinders out there. Test it. That thing is so money because our engine is so good. So yeah, that's a nice feature, but you should buy our rangefinders because they are fast and they're accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then moving into archery, which a lot of my audience's archery is, you can use that for archery, but also with the Full Draw 5, that is an amazing rangefinder that you can actually plug in your ballistics or whatever your whatever you want to call it for your arrow.
Flight path,
yeah. Yeah, your flight path. And it asks you specific measurements. You plug those in, and then it will actually give you a little blinking light where the top of your arc is going to be. So you can go, and a lot of people don't think about this when they've got that big old bull in front of them or a buck, or even if it's a doe, maybe you're excited about shooting a doe, whatever. You've got something that's in your flight path that you're not looking at because you're so focused on that animal. That little blinking light, that line will tell you. It's pretty awesome to be able to have that feature as well. And it is really accurate.
Yeah, it definitely prevents that hitting that top branch that you didn't think you were going to hit, right? Exactly. I mean, those are huge things.
Yeah, that's a big deal for archers as well. Yep. So that's awesome. So again, just great glass, great options outside of just rifle scopes for people that maybe aren't into rifle hunting, or you have to deal with the silly rules like we've got with muzzleloaders now, where you can't have any magnification on your muzzleloader. There's other options like that from you guys as well, which I don't think there's many other companies that offer that. But the RDS that you guys have with the turret on it to be able to use it almost like a scope, but it's one magnification or no magnification on it. That's a great option for people that are allowed to have red dot sights on their muzzleloaders and still want to be able to to dial to their windage and yardage.
Yeah, and once you do the ballistics, you know what the drop is going to be, so you can actually get a custom dial. That's what our custom dial system is all about. And I think we're selling all that we can make in Utah right now.
Yeah. Exactly.
We are. We're selling the heck out of them. So
yeah, that's awesome. Well, sweet. So outside of the products, let's talk a little bit more about Bruce. Who you are and why you became the CEO of Leupold and Stevens. You obviously you enjoyed enough to be there for a long enough time. How long have you been at Leupold?
Over 10 years now.
Yeah.
So
most people can't even hold a job down for a year. So that's over a decade, right? That's a long time. So something has kept you there. Obviously you're into hunting, you enjoy hunting. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about that and how you even got into the outdoors and into hunting in general. Was it something you grew up with? Did you how was that story for you?
Yeah, you know how it is with some folks. I guess when I was probably 8 or 9, and my my grandfather on my mom's side lived in Oklahoma, and he was a rancher and cowboy, and he also had bird dogs. And he took me out on a quail hunt. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and when I went on that and I shot my first quail, and I tell people all the time, I'm not sure if I shot it or he did. He might have pulled the slip on me, but it didn't matter for me. It was just like it was the most incredible thing. I was like, man, I love this. This is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I became passionate about it. I remember reading magazines as a kid, getting what I could. And I did go hunting with my dad, and my dad wasn't like an ardent hunter or anything, but he got me out there. And, we lived in Arizona at the time, so we had opportunities. A lot of my family are really avid hunters in kind of the Payson, Arizona area. And so it was part of kind of our family. My cousin's a full-time outfitter in New Mexico. One of the best out there. That's what he does. He hunts big elk and chases lions and does all that stuff. So in fact, he looks a lot like you. He's got the red beard going. So, and you could fit right in my family, by the way.
Perfect.
You would know, even know. And so for me, it just has always been something that I've been passionate about. So I've always hunted. There's been times in my life when my kids were younger and I couldn't, they were playing sports and I couldn't get out as much as, you got responsibilities around that, and they were pretty good athletes. So took some attention, but, I found the time to get out and every year would hunt something, some way. And for me, when this opportunity came up, it was, I honestly looked at, I got a ton of Leupold scopes in my safe, and they're looking for a CEO. And I've been in the sporting industry my whole career. I wasn't in the specific hunting side of it, but in performance sports and so forth. And so I just said, I got to at least look at this. And what really sold me, I was living in Colorado at the time, incredibly happy. I was up in kind of that evergreen area. So just elk and great fly fishing. And it was kind of my dream to live there. But this opportunity was great. And Oregon's pretty damn good for hunting. It's got some great opportunities. And people don't give it the credit it deserves, actually, I'll tell you. But so I looked at that and the opportunity to be a part of this and something I'm really, really passionate about, and decided I'd do it. And they've let me stay around for a while. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So I guess even before you were with Leupold, what was it about? You said you had a lot of the scopes in your safe. So what was it about that particular scope that stood out to you even before you became the CEO of Leupold?
It's a great question. I've never really even thought about that. I don't know. It was just my brand. It just fit me, right? I grew up in the West, and the gold ring was just, that's what you got. That just made sense to me. And I always loved the performance of the product. And so there were times I looked at other things, and I'm not going to lie, I had some other scopes in there, as a lot of consumers do, but it was 10 to 1 when you look at my safe in terms of what was in there. And I think it was a lot about just having that gold ring was just kind of fit my brand, and what I wanted as a hunter. You knew it was guaranteed. You knew all the stuff that was there. So I just really grew up with that. Yeah. And I think that was it. And I never, I always had good experience with the product.
That's awesome. And that, that's really where it comes from. Again, you were pulled into it because it's something that you enjoyed using. And that's kind of what I love hearing about it, is it's quality product. And you said it's guaranteed. So I kind of actually want to hit on that too, because there's obviously a lot of other brands out there that very much market the fact that they've got this amazing guarantee. You guys don't necessarily focus on that, but from my research, it's the best warranty out there. So
we created it. Yeah. I'll tell you the story behind that. A lot of people don't know this. So when we first started making rifle scopes, it was over 70 years ago. We had some success. It was actually started into making the company was an engineering company, and they were doing water measurement devices and a bunch of other things. And the son of our founder, Fred, Marcus Leupold, he actually was on a black-tailed deer hunt here in Oregon. We've been in Oregon the whole time. His scope fogged up, which happens in Oregon because it rains a lot here. And he missed. He didn't get a shot. He couldn't get a shot on a black-tailed deer, and it energized him to like, I can do this better, which is the start of a lot of really cool entrepreneurial stories, right? I can do it better. And so he started, nights and weekends and stuff, really working on how do I build a better rifle scope. And eventually he did it. And he got a fog-proof rifle scope, and that's what they started marketing. And they brought this out based on his passion. And eventually it took over the business. It became the business. But years into it, he went down to our engineering team, and now they had a successful business. They're advertising and, Field and Stream, and they're selling rifle scopes, and all this is going on. And actually, they had some really cool old ads that are worth looking at sometime. Those old ads are just great. And he went down to the engineering team. He said, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put a gold ring on every one of our rifle scopes. And they're like, no. And I actually heard this from one of the old engineers who's now passed away. And they said, no, let's not do that, Marcus. No one will ever buy a scope with a gold ring on it. No one will ever buy that. And he said, yeah, they will. He said, they will, because we're going to guarantee them for life. And they're going to know that when they buy a Leupold, that we're guaranteeing that. And that was where the gold ring started. By the way, all these other companies weren't even in existence that have all these guarantees now and everything. But understand, for us, and the reason we don't spend so much time on it is, first of all, we created it. People who know us know we have a lifetime guarantee. In fact, if you give it, Jonathan, to your grandson someday and he brings it to us, we'll take care of it. We always do. That's our deal. It's not like only one owner or here's this thing or that. We take care of it. And I had a guy walk in with some binoculars the other day into our lobby, and he came in, and I'm telling you, these binoculars, if they weren't 25, they had to be 25 years old.
Wow.
And he's like, well, they're not working that great anymore. I looked at them, and yeah, there was some issues. They weren't bad, but there was some issues. But
they've been used.
They've been used. We got them a new pair. And so the point is that guarantee is really critical. That I'm passionate with our team about this. I don't want to guarantee replacement. That's a wrong way to look at it. I want to guarantee performance.
Yeah.
Because guess what? If you get that elk tag that you've been waiting 10 years to draw, and you're on the top of a mountain, there's no UPS, there's no FedEx, it has to work. And we take pride in that. That's important to us. And more importantly, if one of our warfighters has our product and is in a bad spot, it absolutely, unequivocally has to work. That's what drives our quality and our passion. And so we don't do everything perfect all the time, but I'll tell you what, if we don't, we're going to stand behind it 100%.
I love that. And yeah, I wanted to highlight that because, again, I love the fact that you don't focus on that as your marketing, because your product is amazing in and of itself. So you focus on what it does well, with the backup of, if something does happen, we got your back. And
yeah, I think new hunters get sucked in sometimes. New users, I would say, get sucked into that guarantee, because the guy at the counter is going, well, this scope is guaranteed no matter what happens. Well, they have to bring it back 2 or 3 times. That doesn't work. You don't want some optic that, okay, so what does that do? I mean, they're used to that from, I guess, their iPhones or whatever. I don't know. But experienced shooters and hunters are like, no, I don't want to be bringing this back. This has to work, And I think that that's the key that we got to do a better job, honestly, of getting that across, because it sometimes I get like kind of a little crazy about like, well, why they're buying because it was guaranteed, but it's not a good product.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, and I would agree. When someone comes into the industry for the first time, they're buying their first pair of binoculars or their first rifle scope or whatever it is as far as optics go. Sometimes you get a little sticker shock, and people are like, well, if I'm going to buy this for this much money, I want to know it's taken care of in case I do something stupid and drop it or whatever happens. And with that being such a big marketing thing for certain companies, I could understand why people would get sucked into that, because, again, you're dropping a lot of money for someone that is new to the industry. And it's you can't really tell the difference until, like, when you're sitting in there in Cabela's or whatever it may be, and you're glassing across the store. They've got those animals set up. You can look across the store. It's like, well, that's not the lighting you're going to get up on the mountain. That's not the lighting you're getting at last light. It's great lighting inside a store, and they're all going to look similar, not the same, but similar for an untrained eye. And then you get up on the mountain and you're sitting there next to someone who has Leupold, binos or a rifle scope, and you're like, that's the difference. And so that's, that makes more sense. And so anyway, I just wanted to hit on that because you guys have an amazing warranty. You'll back up your product. It's not like you buy it once and then, oh, well, see you later. You guys actually care about the people that are buying your products. So
Yeah, you got into one thing there that I think is really important is kind of a little bit of our secret sauce is that light management piece. And we get a lot of credit for our ruggedness and durability and the guarantee and all that stuff. But the reality of what we do in terms of light management and that first 20 minutes and the last 20 minutes and extending that longer because you can actually see. If that's when you compare us to anyone and you do those we do it all the time at our range out in Madras, and we'll bring customers out, or we'll have, some of our different partners out there. And we do that glare test and that low light test so that you can see what it's like. And that's our sauce that people haven't been able to replicate, is we really, really have figured out how to manage low light.
Yep. No, exactly. Exactly. So with that being said, you obviously are very passionate about rifle hunting. Do you do much archery hunting?
I don't do much archery hunting.
Okay.
I like it. My son does, and we got a ton of people here in the building, and I just have a limited amount of opportunities that I get out, and from a time perspective, I get plenty of opportunities, but in my job, but I just like having that. I mean, I feel like I should have that gold ring up there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel,
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of part of my thing is I better have a gold ring on top.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And honestly, archery isn't for a lot of people that like yourself. You're a CEO of a
Yeah. I mean, I shoot it. I've got a bow,
Yeah.
and I shoot, and I like it. I like it a lot. It's just opportunity for me.
Yeah, exactly. So like you were bringing up, if you've got a bunch of kids, if you've got things going on that maybe you and your spouse both work, you're not able to take time off as much, etc. There's a lot of reasons why I would push more people into rifle, because you're going to get a little bit more opportunity. It's going to be you see an animal at 300 yards, you're able to take that shot if you're good enough shot. Whereas with archery, that's when your hunt starts. You have to find the animal, and then you have to go into it. So it is definitely, there's nothing, I guess, negative about rifle hunting. I think some people get into that. They get caught up with that. They're like, oh, I'm an archer. I'm better than this or that. And I'm like, well, actually, it's not black and white. There's definitely a lot. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more that goes into it. So
yeah, I think we as hunters need to get over that, because we got a whole bunch of people that are called anti-hunters out there that don't want us to have any success at all. And so if you're a bow hunter and you have success, I'm going to be so happy for you. I support bow hunters like crazy. I don't do it right now, but there may be another time that I do. And I, so I think, from that perspective, that's something that we just got to get over. I'll tell you what I did do is, for a while, I was thinking about bow hunting, like, should I do that? And what I decided to do is I got a 45-70 single shot Ruger #1, and I put a fixed scope on it. I put a fixed 4, right. and it was, which, the drop on that and your range on that bullet is very
like
short.
A big pistol.
You got to get to, you need to be 70 yards, you kind of need to be 70 yards. Now the 4 scope does help somewhat. So it's not the same as bow hunting. That's not my point. But my point is the stock. I love to be able to stalk an animal. And so I started hunting with that for a while. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. My wife and I went to Spain and went to hunt an ibex, and that was a big deal for me. And we went over there. I took that with me. Decided I was going to hunt an ibex in the mountains of Spain. You got to hire an outfitter over there. You have to have an outfitter, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we can do where we just, go. And when I showed up with that thing, this outfitter was losing his mind. He's like, no, you don't bring that. We're going to do it. We just got to get close. So that part of it, and I was able to actually kill an ibex with a 45-70 and a single shot Ruger, which was fantastic. So
yeah, that's crazy, because really a 45-70 is a great. Someone I was listening to the other day put it really well. They were like, 45-70 is great if you're riding horseback and killing bison on the prairie. Like
that's right. That's right. No, that's it. It's down into, you got to be in bow range. That's my point. Yeah, and now what I will tell you is, when you actually do hit it with a 45-70, it is really effective. Oh yeah, it definitely is. That ibex didn't like it. They didn't like it one bit. It was like, I'm not going anywhere.
Well, it's like a 50 cal muzzleloader, man. You get
exactly.
A muzzleloader, they just drop. There's
I'm done.
Crazy. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'd love to go to Spain one day. Actually, that's one of my hopes to go to. You probably know Pedro. pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, I
He's
do.
such an amazing guy, and I'd love to go out there and hunt red stags with him one day.
Yeah, you should, because he's a machine. That guy is next level. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and it's real hunting. We're in the mountains and we're trekking around and we're doing it. I mean, it was good. It was good fun.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. So I guess let's get into some of your hunting stories. Let's pick two of your favorite hunting stories, and then we'll go with maybe one of your failures that you learned from. I wouldn't even call it a failure, but a learning experience that you had, maybe a
Wow.
good story. So
There's a lot of learning experiences. It's almost every hunt that there's something that you're like, I could do that better. I can tell you that. So there's a ton of those. Yeah, I mean, I've got so many great stories. I feel like if I leave one out, one of my family members or someone's going to be. But I got so many that I can tell you. I mean, one of my great ones is, my good friend Randy Newberg and I were able to get a public land tag down in New Mexico and going on a hunt. We actually filmed that, and it was cool, but it was intense. We got into some really, really, gnarly country, and we made that decision of going down in a place that looked like it was going to be bad and then was worse than what we thought, and ended up killing elk down there and getting it out. And it took forever, and it was, kind of all completely burned. So there was no trails. I mean, it was like doing squats for hours to get that elk out. And, just the hunt itself and making it happen. We passed on a pretty big bull along the way and ended up killing the bull we were after, which was really cool to me because, I probably passed a bull that was decent size, and he was a legit mature bull, but we had already seen a bull that we knew we wanted. We knew it was big, and we ended up making it happen. And so, he and I are the same age. And so we have a great relationship. We care so much about conservation. And so hunts like that, to me, where it kind of all comes together and you really enjoy the people you're with, that's certainly one of them. That was a great hunt for me. Man, the rest of them, if I think about it, it's a lot of times with my family. I had a great mule deer hunt with my son in Colorado, which was something that he and I'll never forget. And my wife and I hunted a mountain lion. I know, people have their thing about mountain lion, but man, I'll do that any day of the week. Yeah. With my cousin who in New Mexico, and killed a big cat there. And we actually tracked it. We had dogs, of course, but we tracked it and we stayed in the tracks the whole time. And it just, ended up a really, really, amazing kind of hunt in the sense that we got it done, but the cat would, kind of ended up baying up instead of treeing and was having havoc on the dogs. And I had to literally come in and make a shot on a mountain lion at, 8 yards. So I didn't shoot a dog. And those are always kind of intense things as a hunter that you think about that isn't normal. But when it's done, you're like, I'm glad I did, that was cool. I did that because you have to wait because the dogs are darting in and, you're trying to find your opening and, things like that. So I have a lot of experiences with my family that, have been great. My dad and I went and hunted in Alaska and did ptarmigan and stuff like that. And he's now passed away. And that was a great, great time just doing stuff like that. So, yeah.
I love it. So I guess a better question then, because you obviously had a lot of experiences. I love that you brought the family in with you, and it's not just about you and your experiences, but you've got a lot of family experiences, which is what I aim to do as my kids get older and get into it as well. But what would you say with all your experiences? What if you had to pick one animal? And it's the worst question ever, but if you had to pick one animal that you could hunt for the rest of your life, what would it be, and what time of year? Late season, early season, during their rut? What would it be?
That's so hard. I don't measure anything, and I hunt because I'd love to hunt. Right. And I've had pheasant hunts that were incredible. I love bird dogs. I mean, I'm not like fixated on one thing. I'm not a guy that only hunts sheep or only does this or only does that. What would be the one thing if I could do that? I only had one choice. I guess it's going to be mule deer or elk. They're right there. I've hunted them a lot and they're both great hunts. But mule deer in the rut are pretty cool. That's late season. And it's, I think that's pretty cool. So I'd have to think about it, but it's going to be one of those two.
Okay. Yeah. Between mule deer and elk.
Yeah. It's one of them. Elk hunting's awesome. Right.
So, mule deer. I would agree. They're different. Like they're so abundant. I actually got kind of frustrated. My wife heard some choice words while I was yelling at some mule deer the other day because my son and I went up the mountain for his first opening day for archery was this last weekend,
Yeah.
and
In Utah,
we
right?
yeah, and we
Yeah.
didn't see. I mean, we saw a doe and her yearling, and a little forky 3 ridges over that wasn't worth going after. And I
Hmm.
was so frustrated. I was, I wasn't really showing my son that he had a blast. He got to take a nap. He learned how to glass, all this stuff. And for me, I'm like, man, there's nothing. There's usually stuff in here. And we come down that evening, and my wife and I are going to the grocery store just at last light uh, the next day, and there was 3 bucks hanging out by the tread tracks in velvet, just beautiful bucks. I mean, they weren't anything crazy, but I was just like,
Yeah.
I had my window down and I yelled out. I was like, "Bah." And she was like, "Whoa, babe, what's going on?" I was like, "You don't understand how frustrating that is when you
Yeah.
go up the mountain for miles and then you come down. They're right outside the neighborhood."
That's hilarious.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but no, when they get into the rut, like it's cool to see them all puffed up, their heads
Yeah.
down, chasing does, things like that. But also the elk with their vocalizations is just that's
It's
something
hard to
different.
beat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I love turkey hunting because of that too. I mean, I
yeah.
freaking love calling turkeys because it's just like when it comes together, it's exciting.
Hmm. Their little
So
heads pop up over the
yeah.
grass. You're like,
Oh,
oh,
that's
there he
great.
is.
Yep. It's
The
awesome.
little, yeah, exactly. No, that's
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so then I guess let's go to your story of your learning experience that you had and go into some detail there because I know you said you had a lot, but let's pick one.
I'll tell you what. I one of one of them was that same hunt that I told you with Randy because it was so hard that I thought about my training differently after that. I literally when I got back, it was this was a 24-hour affair. So it wasn't like we went back to a camp. We decided we were going to get it out, and we took a different way out than the way we came in, and it was long and it was hard. It was literally 24 hours of just work. And I want to be honest with you. I learned from that because I wasn't as prepared as I needed to be. I did it and I got through it,
Yeah.
but I was miserable. And so for me, part of that was just like you got to really think about this differently and I was I'm getting older and so for me the lesson out of that was you can't just go like you used to go because you were an athlete or you were kind of fit or whatever, right? It changes when you start to get 50, and I'm older than that now. And so, and it really changes how you got to think about things and manage it. And I want to hunt till I'm 70. So I have to really, the learning from that was, you're going to have to do things differently if you want this sport that you love, particularly when you're doing it the way we do it in the West. You're going to have to do that. I learned though, honestly, I learned from every hunt. I can tell you every time I go, man, I could have done that differently. I could have done that better, because it's just so many things around, I didn't turn my dial back or I didn't do that. Like, what am I thinking, getting that process in place and really thinking about that. Because all of us as hunters, I mean, we all have those miserable experiences where we've wounded something and not been able to find it. If you say you haven't, then I don't think you've hunted very much because we've all been through that. And it's the most awful, incredibly brutal experience there is. And, I had that with a mule deer where I was sure I hit him well. And obviously I hit him back and I couldn't find the deer. And I was distraught, completely distraught. And so those are the things where you learn from it. Like, okay, did I have 3 points of contact? Was I really as stable as I needed to be? Did I, did I really think about my breathing and how I took that shot? And so those lessons that you learn on any experience, I think you just gotta take them and know that it's a sport that demands you to get better all the time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I agree. Wanting to be able to hunt till you're 70 or even past that, it takes a level of dedication at even a younger age to focus on your training because again, you did it, but you like you said, you were miserable doing it. And you don't want to be limited in the mountains. You want to be able to look over there and say, look, the big bulls over there, the big bucks over there, I want to go after it and I can go after it. And that's what a lot of people overlook. They think about the gear and their caliber, and they get caught up in the bow and the newest thing and this and that and the other, and they forget about their training until they're hiking up that mountain, 1,000 feet of vertical, and they're like, oh man, like
Yeah,
this is, I've got all the coolest stuff on my back, but the main piece of gear that needs to get up, like you said, the engine and your rangefinders, that main engine that you have, is it capable of managing all the gear that you've got now, right?
that's right.
And so that's a very valid point. I think a lot of people get to that point when they're up on the mountain, and by then it's a little too late. So you kind of have to adjust for the next couple of
That's right.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then with that as well, what's something that you would say to people that you've learned? I mean, do you have a trainer now? Do you just go to the gym more regularly? Do you ruck more? What's something that you've added since then?
I've kind of always done my own training, but I get advice and things from others. I subscribe to the Mountain Tough app, and those stuff that I pull out there. I don't go and do their exact routines, but I do get great training off of there and things that I've learned. I also, I think you have to. I'm 59 years old, so I've got to manage my body appropriately, which means there's certain things that I know I can't do, or I've got to do things. So I've got, a local guy here that he's a PT type guy. I don't use him that much, but he'll give me some stuff if I'm like, my hip is killing me, or, learning that I probably shouldn't be running anymore and now just get a pack on and go and walk and hike with weight, things like that. So I've adapted over time, and you just kind of listen to your body and decide what's going to work for it and what isn't, and do the best you can to take care of it, and I got to do that within a schedule that still is running this company. And that's my first priority,
Exactly.
not hunting. Let's be clear. My first priority is this company and what we do. And so I have to fit it in and be disciplined about that. And, it does work. I'm not perfect about it all the time, but it does work.
Yeah. So you're telling me that being the CEO of Leupold, you don't get to just clock out and go hunt wherever you want, whenever you want?
I know people think that, but it is far from that. It is far from that. Yeah. No, we have 750 team members that all need to make sure that we're going in the right direction. So
Right. Right. Yeah.
that's fine.
And that's a big deal, for people too that are like, oh, I want to get into the industry. They want to own a bow shop, or they want to do this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's awesome, but do you want to do anything else? Like, it's
right.
not, you don't get to shoot your bow more. You almost get tired of bows by the time you're done working on everyone else's bow. And then, with being in the hunting industry, it's definitely something. It's like being the CEO of Leupold is awesome, but you also have to shift your priorities. You can't just be about hunting at that point. You need to take care of the company and the employees there.
That's right.
I mean, you kind of have all their families on your back, at that point, being the
Yeah.
CEO. Not
Yep.
to remind you of the pressure you've got going.
No,
there,
it's 100% true though. You're exactly right. That's the responsibility is, we got to win. And there's a lot of people who want to compete with us, and we got to show up every day. And my job is to make sure we put a strategy in place that allows us to win in the market. And I'm absolutely passionate about doing that.
Sweet. I love that. So talking about stories, let's talk about Project Hunt. I know you've been pushing that a lot lately. Obviously, I've watched some of the videos. They're amazing. I love the way you guys tell stories in that way. But for people that aren't familiar with Project Hunt, what is Project Hunt, and why do you guys care about people's stories like that?
I just think it's a great way for us, for our, Leupold core, or the folks that they don't get a chance to, get their hunts filmed. And it's, I've had a lot of stuff filmed because of what I do. And it's really, there's so many memorable things in there for them. And so I wanted just to create this program that allowed people that wouldn't normally get a chance to be able to have their hunt, are filmed, and their hunt filmed. And so that opportunity is really, really a cool thing for them. And so we make them audition for it. I mean, they send a reel in, and here's why you should film me, and this is why we're going and doing this. And my wife and I, we just got one in that I think we just launched with a couple of guys in Colorado that drew a muzzleloader tag, and a great unit. And they happen to be it is random that they sent it in, and that I knew one of the kids because we lived in Colorado and my daughter went to school with them. So, Ryan Haight and Freeman Payne, we just put that one out there. It's actually a great one if you check it out.
Yeah,
it's really, really cool. And, it was great to see it because these guys are passionate hunters. They grew up hunting with their dad and dads, and they just to pull it all together. And I can tell you that when they saw that film and the comments I got back from those two, it's just like, I'll share that for the rest of my life. I have something now that when I have kids, I can share it with them. That's the stuff that touches my heart and makes it just so cool. And all of them that we've done have been that way, where you can see the emotion and just how important hunting is to them and their family.
Yeah. And it really is, without, like, even in self-filming or anything like that, it's hard to capture the emotion genuinely.
Yeah.
And so when you have someone out there filming for you, I remember one of the things he said, I can't remember the name of the kid, but the guy that was hunting.
Yeah, Ryan.
So he said, when he shot the bull, not to spoil anything, guys, but he was successful. But he mentioned, he was going through his emotions, and he said, he starts to kind of tear up a little bit and just said, my wife is at home with her 2-year-old daughter and she's pregnant, so that I could be out here and do this. And for some people, maybe you just don't care enough to think about that when you leave hunting. You're just so dedicated to hunting that nothing else matters at that point. But for someone like me, that, my wife has been at home with young kids when I'm out hunting, and even this September when I go for a week, she's got to run the house and her job while I'm gone. Like, that's a big deal for families. And so, that catching that emotion as he tears up, and that's his focus at that moment. Like, he's accomplished his goal of killing the bull, and now he's had that on the forefront of his mind, that his wife is back home with his daughter and a pregnancy. That's a big deal. And I think that's really cool that you guys capture things like that. So how long has Project Hunt been a thing?
I want to say we're in our 4th or 5th year. I'd have to look, but we've done it for 4 or 5 years now. And we've had very different stories each time. We had a veteran in Arizona that drew a sheep tag, and we filmed that one. That was super cool. I mean, they're all kind of all over the place. We had a game and fish, that was a game and fish guy out of Michigan that came out. And I mean, there's just been so many great stories. So, and we're going to keep doing it. It's really popular, and it's a way for us to share kind of what our, what kind of our hunters are doing. So,
yeah. So I guess talk the listeners through this a little bit more, as far as how they apply. When do you generally have this application open, kind of more or less, is the end of the year, beginning of the year? And then what's the application process?
The first thing is go to Leupold.com and sign up for the Leupold Core, a Core Insider, because, you'll get all the information when it comes out. So we'll send out an email that says, hey, Project Hunt's coming. Here's what you got to do. You get the information, and you'll just click on. We send a video out to the core, to our Leupold Core, and it'll show exactly what you need to do. And then you go and you put in your submission, and we review them all. I mean, we got a team that sits down and reviews them all. And it's hard, we get a few hundred of them in, and they'll cut it down to 50, and then they cut it down to 20, and then they bring I get involved at that point, and our VP of product and marketing, Tim Lesser, gets involved, and we start to kind of look through it, and we get a team of folks that go through and like, okay, why do we love this particular person, and what are they about, and what do we think this is cool? And so we pick some good ones, but we really try to pick stories that of people that we think, are unique and have a unique opportunity and tell their story in the right way. And, because like you already watched the last one, but those guys were, I mean, holy cow, they look like they've been on camera their whole life. I was like, these guys are good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and they're, there's not really much else to it other than, you want to tell that story, because there's so many applications. I would hate to be the person having to weed out,
it's hard.
People, because that would be rough. Cause I'm sure there's so many good stories out there being told, or that should be told. And so
we originally were going to do one. That was the original plan, and we couldn't get it to one. And we're like, we can't. Okay. I'm like, okay, fine. Just double the budget, do 2. Like, let's go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And those are things too that you can do, going back to the fact that it's family owned, right? It's not, you don't have to go to all this, the corporation and the group that owns it and all this stuff and try and pitch that. You're able to say, look, this is a great thing. We need these 2 people, their stories told, and you're able to make those decisions. So I think that's awesome. That's really cool. You guys did an amazing job with that one. And again, I recommend that people go and check that out. Go sign up for Leupold Core, like you said, and then get that information so that you can have a chance to have your hunt filmed, and then of course saving it for your kids, your grandkids, and not just the people that watch the when Leupold puts it out there, but also having that professionally filmed content for your kids and grandkids growing up, for them to be able to see what you did as you
Yeah.
grew up. So,
And you know what else is cool that we do is sometimes we'll have film premieres, and we brought one of the winners out, and they got their film. They hadn't even seen it yet. It got premiered in front of an audience at the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show, and they were there to view it and then talk a little bit about it, which was super cool.
awesome.
So there's other great experiences that go with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, again, just things that everyone can get involved in. I highly recommend people go and check that out. But like you said, sign up for the email list so that you can get the information as it comes out and as new projects come up and new things. Like you said, there's some amazing things in the works here over the next couple years that you guys have. Those people will get to know it first. You may follow Leupold on social media, etc., but getting those emails is a lot more of a direct touch to the consumer, where there's not an algorithm or anything like that that's maybe shifting things away from hunting or whatever's going on. You'll get that information direct to your inbox. So I recommend that as well, for sure. So with that, is there anything, I guess, that you'd like to share we haven't touched on at this point in the conversation here with the audience?
No, I mean, I think we covered all kinds of stuff. So I just want to say thanks for your partnership. We appreciate you, and we'll keep building on this partnership and going. I told you earlier, the faith, family, fitness, and outdoors, your mantra is super. It's right on. That fits the Leupold team and Leupold Pro team really well. So thank you for being a part of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Bruce. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate that. Guys, I highly recommend. Actually, I have one more question for you, just real quick. For the
Okay.
Western guy that's going out, maybe he's new, maybe he's coming out from the East to the West for his first hunt. He needs to gear up on some glass. He's not going to be doing this every single year. He doesn't need the BX5 Santium, top of the line, everything. What would you recommend as far as maybe a basic package for someone coming out to, let's say, archery hunt, and then we'll go rifle hunt, for someone that's coming out west?
Look, I think you can, if you're coming out as an archery hunter, I think, what I would do, and you're talking about, okay, I'm not going to go spend top end dollar. I want to spend kind of like where I get the gear that's going to get it done at what I would call a pro level. I would go with the Pro Guide binocular. It is the optics on that are absolutely fantastic. It is the best value binocular there possibly is. It's still not cheap, but it is a great binocular in terms of what you're going to get. And I think it stands up against binoculars. It definitely fights above its weight class for sure. So there's that. We have a whole host of rangefinders. I think if you are an archery guy, spend the money. The full draw 5 is the way to go. It's going to give you what you need, on that piece of it. And then, if you want to get a spotter for the West, we have a whole bunch of options, but within that Pro Guide line, there's the Pro Guide spotter, and it's equal in terms of what it offers. And so there's various magnifications depending on where you're going and what you're doing. But I think that package for an archery hunter, bow hunter is the way to go. And I think that'll get you, what you need. And we've got a whole bunch of other things going on in terms of performance eyewear that is great. And there's other products that we have. So if you go to leupold.com, you can see our accessory items, and all of them perform. We don't do any dumb stuff. Like, we're not allowed to do that here. Everything has to have a performance characteristic to it.
Exactly.
So I think for the bow hunter, that's it. I think if you're thinking about, a rifle hunt, I would recommend the same. I would change my rangefinder out to probably the 1400. I think it gives you everything you need. You're not going to, particularly if you're a new hunter, but no one shoots anything that far anyway. Okay. You shouldn't be if you are. Okay, if you want to lob a shot at a coyote, go for it. But I'm talking about big game hunt, really that 1400 is insanely accurate. It's great value, absolutely tremendous value. It's one of the best priced rangefinders out there. And it has our engine that is, kind of untouched. So I would go Pro Guide binoculars. I would get a Pro Guide spotter. I would do the 1400 rangefinder, and I would get a VX3. I would get a VX3 scope. A 4.5 to 14 is a great magnification for the West. You can do just about anything with that, and and you get a custom dial with it, so you can, either chrono it, or you can look on the box and say, okay, I'm shooting, Hornady LDX, and this is where I'm traveling at. We will immediately burn you a custom dial. You put it on there, and now, if you got a shot at 400 yards, you can dial the 400, still hold right behind the shoulder and make the shot. That is a great, great package that honestly you can hunt with for a very, very long time.
I love it.
You don't want to,
awesome.
you don't want to buy a package that you got to move out of immediately. Get
Right.
something that is still, that provides that value. And I think that does it.
Yeah, I would agree. So and you just came out with the Gen 2s of the BX4, which is the pro guide that you were mentioning there.
That's right.
So the BX4 is an amazing package. That's actually, those are the binos that I'm going to be running out west, the 10x50s. But what would you say the most common magnification binoculars would be that people pick up?
Well, 10x42s are what we sell the most. I personally go 10x50 in the West. I just like to have more magnification. Ours are so light, like even the 12x50s in those are all so light that I would just move up to those if it was me. I always go with that because I want a little bit more magnification. It helps me range, helps me kind of see a little bit further when I'm glassing. So that's what I would go.
Yeah, and even throwing those on a tripod. I mean, I was glassing all day on Saturday, and it's amazing. You don't get much eye fatigue at all from sitting there with binos and on a tripod. It's just panning across those ridges, and everything was awesome. So those are great packages. I appreciate that. That information for people out there looking to get something. Always feel free to reach out to me as well. More than happy to help you out with that. But again, Bruce, I appreciate your time hopping on here. I know you're a busy guy. You've got lots going on, obviously. And guys, go sign up for the Leupold Core. There's some amazing things in the works. You guys are going to want to know about them first. So definitely go get signed up there. And where else can they find you? Where else do you want to plug for them?
Yeah, just leupold.com. That's where we're at. Come to our website. We've got everything on there you need, and make sure you sign up for the Leupold Core Insider. Awesome.
And Bruce did not say that Oregon has great hunting opportunities. Stay out of Oregon. No one wants to do that.
It does. It's undiscovered.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, we have some great opportunities. So
cool. Well, guys, like I always say, get out, live your life, and love it.